Morning traders, Paul here with GammaEdge. Today is Thursday, the 13th of, what is it? July. Let's get started. Pause your players here, read to the very bottom. If you agree, hit that play button. Summary for today, we're still in this pretty significant uptrend. We have another continuation day. This is appropriate for both the 0 DTE folks as well as the 1 to 3 day swing traders. Our cumulative tick model is very, very strong. It's closed above the previous day's close. We're now in day 4 of a continuation day, something we call the railroad track pattern. You'll see that on the next slide. Is in also a continuation day. Very, very strong pattern here. Long-term market model, which is what we call the ribbon, remains in an uptrend. Looks very good, almost ski slope-ish type, and you'll see that another continuation day up. Now this is driving by the rearview mirror. What that means is this is not predictive, but it does show some momentum here, right? So we'll just have to wait and see what happens here. We are aware and always looking for a reversal to the downward side or a continuation up. And as long as you remain above these key levels that we're going to talk about here, we think dips can be bought, and we think as long as you observe proper risk management, don't get out over your ski tips, you should be pretty good at capturing some of these gains. Now yesterday we talked about if we broke above 44.50 that we would look for 44.75. We actually gapped open pretty high. We tested the 44.90 zone and then pulled back, and we ended up at 44.72. We don't watch the news, so any morning noise that occurs is not going to be reflected. And I haven't looked at the futures this morning. I have no clue if we're up or down, and frankly, from a structure point of view, it does not matter. So I got a DM basically saying, why didn't we anticipate the gap up yesterday, et cetera, et cetera. Frankly, we don't care, and you shouldn't either. The structure is the structure is the structure, and as a result of that, just know where the goalposts are and know where the ski poles are so that you know how to get around those gates. So with that said, 44.60 and 44.30 are the plus minus trends for the PM settled complex. This is up a significant amount. This has moved quite a bit. The out of the money puts are moving up underneath us, which provides liquidity if we reverse, and this is a good thing. This is normal market action. We were thinking because we had a pretty dominant call expiry yesterday, we could see some monetization. Obviously it did not occur until later in the day, and that puts downward pressure on the overall markets, but we had already moved up quite a bit by then. The combo complex, which we call the mothership here, is remaining fairly locked in at 44.15. I want everyone to stop and pause. 44.60 is the SPX PM settled, but the mothership, which is the AM and the PMs, is still sitting down at 44.15. Institutions are not moving the entire boat up in the direction of the PM settle. We're seeing a little bit of a disconnect here. So a little bit of exuberance towards the 4,500. Everyone's piling on the 4,500, and the takeaway here is just be aware that the potential for mean reversion is very real. All right, so just be aware of that. Furthermore, minus trans, which is that strike at which it and all the strikes below it are net negative in terms of how we look at the put domination. It has dropped. And when this occurs, we're not getting the overall complex to move up in a nice, orderly manner. We have some indecision occurring below us, and those puts are not being opened. So liquidity, to a certain extent, in the combo complex is drying up relative to where we are in the PM complex. So again, it's showing to some extent no fear to the downside. When we see no fear to the downside, we actually get a little more fearful, because with no liquidity, as we drop, the first wave of monetization may not be enough to abate us and reverse that drop, and we could continue in a low liquidity environment lower. So be sure you understand those dynamics. If you don't, come on into the Discord and we can talk about it. On the positive side, the SPX combo, Delta, Gamma, Vanna, and Charm strikes clearly indicating the 44.50, the 4,500 zone. Everything has flipped into a call-dominated state, and as we covered last night in the open mic session, when we see this type of behavior across the board, this is incredibly bullish. Price action is anticipated to be strong today. We're not expecting a lot of volatility, but over 70% of the time when we see a in-the-money call domination on the left hand, what we call the left hand plane, and a out of the money call domination on the right hand plane. This is constructive for prices to the upside. Now, because this is the SPX, this is on a day-over-day basis. This says nothing about tomorrow, says nothing about next week. Just want you to be aware of that. 0DT folks, we have a large number within the Discord. 4480 is your indicated plus trans level. Minus trans is 4465 because we closed at 4472. We're smack dab in transition. That's a safe zone. It's no wonder that we paused there last night. So since we close within that, we start the day neutral. We can go either way. The 0DT plus GEX is clearly 4,500. If we can get above the 4,500 zone, things are going to look pretty rosy all the way up to what we think is around 44.25 or 45.25. Minus GEX is indicated down at 44.55. If we break below 44.55, we think we're going to be looking at 44.50, maybe 44.45 as the low end. We don't anticipate today getting much below that 44.25. Now, both of these are going to be dependent upon intraday action. So watch the value SPXP 07 command. That'll give us your distribution over the next 7 days. And then also watch the vol D SPXP. So that'll give you the intraday 15-minute slices. Market model, as I said, we've got a continuation day. You can see the bolded white line here is just taken off to the lower left, upper right. You can see why we call the 3 moving averages underneath it, those white ones, the railroad track pattern, because they look parallel. They look like a railroad track. And this is a very strong signal. We caught it earlier this week. We hope you caught it. Everybody who has been participating in this is pretty darn happy. Now, these continuation days don't last long on average. Today would be a normal reversal day. Between 4 and 5 days is when we do start to see a little bit of weakness. We'll just have to wait and see what's going to happen. Now, long-term model, it's the red colored ribbon you see at the bottom. You can see how it's starting to really uptrend. The slopes are really improving and trending up, and that is because of the extension above it of that white, bolded white line. Now, what we would expect to see is that bolded white line over the next couple of days. If we did see a pullback, it would pull back but hold above the ribbon, the longer term ribbon. These would represent buying opportunities just like what you see back on 7.6 and 7.7. So if we do pull back, it's not a sell everything, it's a wait and see, but protect your profits and do what you need to do to be profitable. Taking a look at the gammas, probably the key things to take a look at is that we've moved up from the 44.75 to the 4,500 level for plus GEX. You can see that with a bright green arrow here on the left. We are mindful of this little node that's developing down here in Gamma at 43.90. We've got these little pockets that are just, not clean, but overall transition, a little bit fatter now. This is in the PM complex, so a little more indecisions creeping in. This is not as well defined as it's been this week. As people get exuberant, as the rubber band gets stretched, whatever your metaphor is here. But clearly, 4,500 is indicated to the upside, and you can also see the strength of the 44.75. That's probably one of the many reasons why we pinned in this area yesterday. Taking a look at the 0DTE, you can see we're up higher than the PM settled, so we don't actually have a direct overlapping of the transition ranges. That's that blue box. We closed right within this. You can see the 44.55 is indicated as the downside dominant gamma. You can see 4,500 is the upside dominant gamma, and because it's a 0DTE, more often than not, call open interest, COI, is moved up and indicated also at 4,500. All these have moved up according to the green arrows. This is a huge amount for the 0DTE, and it shows the relative exuberance of the market playing that short-term, day ahead, 1 day ahead, 2 day ahead type of movement. So we'll see what happens. Once this comes off today and tomorrow, we could pull back, and you'll see why here in a moment. Taking a look at the 1DTE, you can see transitions much lower than where we are. You see this double structure that appears at 44.75 for tomorrow. This is Friday, as well as the 4,500. And my directive to the folks in the Discord, do your what-if scenarios if we're below those 2 strikes, if we're between those 2 strikes, or if we're above those 2 strikes where we start the day tomorrow. Go through your sequencing, figure out what the overall impacts are. And if you do it right, you should come to the conclusion that in the money and out of the money, sitting between those two, could represent a parking spot and could be a launching position as we go into the Friday area. So we are looking for overnight parking between the 4475 and the 4500. Of course, this will be strongly influenced today by the 0 DTE action and profit taking, etc. The other thing I want you to note is up here in the upper right hand corner, we have a fairly strong dominant call dominated expiry tomorrow. This is a fairly significant amount in the week ahead of the OPEX weekly, or excuse me, the monthly OPEX. Just be aware of that. We could see some profit taking, which could put some downside pressure, and a mean reversion back to transition would not be surprising. When we take both today and tomorrow and we stack them together, you can see where we are. We're just above the transition, so again, it's no mystery why we probably closed at the 4470, 4475 area. We do not think by the end of Friday, unless we see some specific targeting, we don't think we're going any higher than the 4425. There just is not a lot of delta up there that's going to be influential. Now, of course, 0 DTE action, 1 DTE action is going to change that. So watch the value command on SPXP, 07, and then you can isolate the individual days in the legend, as you guys are aware. Taking a look at next week, which includes this week. This includes the AM settles for Friday. And you can see pretty strongly that the range is fat on the transition. That's a little indecisive, undetermined, but clearly we have green deltas above, green deltas below, still a call dominated environment above and below, very strong. 4475, 4500 still very much indicated here. And you can see into next week that the 4525 as well as the 4550s are indicated as potentials. So they are growing. Now to the downside, also be aware, 4400 is growing also. So don't rule that out yet. When we take a look at the combo complex, this is what I was talking about earlier. This is the mothership, right? There's 18 million contracts of the SPX sitting out here if you include the AMs and the PMs. That's a big notional number. We are stretched above it, so we're not really budging where the blue box is. That is the transition zone. That 4415 is staying pretty well locked in place. That's an important place because that in this area is where we believe the market likes to sit, where if you think of a marble in a bowl type of thing, it's where the marble is at the bottom of the bowl. We are stretched above that, hence the red arrow. Also want to call out there is a parking spot at that 4455 area, which is coincident on some of the numbers that we were just talking about. So just be aware of that. That's the orange arrow that you see on the screen there. Note we have a lot of gamma in this structure, right? And we have a lot of call-dominated gamma in this structure. Green to the north, green to the south, very, very strong. This is a bullish structure. There's no way there's no ambiguity here, no other way to interpret it. But we are stretched. We can remain stretched. We've been stretched, but just be aware that if we do pull back, this is the area we probably will pull back to. So if you can pick up some cheap insurance to the downside, I would be looking into this area within the next couple weeks. Combo structure, pretty clear what's going on here. The 4200 on the left side has dropped significantly from Wednesday. It was at minus 13,000 net GEX, now it's at minus 9,000. There's no fear in the markets to the downside. Yes, we moved up, and that's another reason this thing has gotten smaller. We get it, believe me, you don't need to DM me. But the other part is when you go look at the puts there actually have been some out of the money puts that have been closed. So with that in mind, there are folks who are throwing in the towel to the downside liquidity argument, right? So just be aware that we're not necessarily seeing the distribution of short-dated gamma in anticipation of moving low. That is a lower liquidity. Now, to the upside, it's pretty clear what's going on. We've got a number of targets that are developing. The 4500 has grown a huge amount relative to where it was yesterday. And you can see now the 4550, also the 4525 is in this block, and the 4600 is already being indicated here. So don't rule that stuff out. It is growing. It's growing pretty fast. So everybody's thinking, they're going to get their game on. So you can play. We do have a market. You can play either side as necessary. So with that, I will bid you farewell. If you have any questions, comments, want to come in, kick the tires, go to GammaEdge.us, upper right-hand corner of that web page. Click the pricing tab, fill out the blanks. When you fill out the blanks and hit submit, you will get an email from LaunchPass. In that email will be a code. you must send that code to the LaunchPass bot in Discord. You have to. So if you don't get that email, you might have your settings locked down, but you will be a member of the Discord. You just won't be able to see anything. DM at admin from within the Discord, and one of the admins will help you walk through. Sometimes your settings are too tight in Discord, and you cannot be added into a bot process. On Twitter, follow us at GammaEdges with an S, and then here on YouTube, two things. If you like today's commentary, thumbs up, gives me immediate feedback on providing content for you that you can use, and two, subscribe so that you get notified next time we post videos. With that, I bid you farewell. Make it a great Thursday. Do not get out over your ski tips, but ride the wave if you can. Talk to you later.